Hello friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Kahlo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulse on social media.
Hi everyone, on today's Spotlight episode, Jen explains Sylvia Browne.
Welcome to the show, grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
We haven't done a Spotlight in a while. I think the last one was Rasputin. We've kind of just been caught up in the season of like Lent, Good Friday. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we caught that bug. I kind of realized like we're in a little religious kick, but I'm glad to switch it up a little bit and then move forward. We have Good Friday coming up soon, and then from there that'll be the last of kind of that little mini series we threw. But a Spotlight is good. We've been wanting to do Sylvia Browne for a while. This is one, unlike Rasputin, where I'm pretty sure I'm not going to like this person. But I'm going in with an open mind. You and I both did a little bit of research on this one. And so far what we have is not great, but we're going to give the facts. And I mean, it is an entertainment podcast, so we don't necessarily have to remain unbiased. But already not a great look.
Yes. So who is Sylvia Browne? She was an American psychic. How I got to know Sylvia Browne, I did watch her quite a bit on the Montel Williams show, which is an OG daytime talk show from the 2000s.
Those are the shows that you would watch when you were like sick and didn't go to school.
Or like summer vacation. Yes. Yeah. I had no business watching them, but like my mom didn't really speak English and also she didn't really care. So I just watched it.
That was like our generation's brain rot.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, yes, that's a good way to describe it. Like Jerry Springer, Montel Williams, Maury, like
there was a lot.
All that.
You know which one was crazy? Do you remember a show called The Steve Wilkinson Show?
Yes.
That one was wild. Yeah. He was like an ex-cop, and so I think his whole shtick was like, I'm like no bullshit, and he was like this buff, like bald dude. That one, I remember that one was hella messy. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, we'll have to fact check this. He started off being someone else's like muscle. Like
he might have been Jerry Springer muscle.
I want to say it was more like Maury or Dr. Phil or something.
That makes sense. We'll have to go back and
because I remember like there would be these bratty kids that are like, I don't want to go to military. What is it called? Like military school, like the like school for bad kids, like kind of like a boarding school situation. And he would like pick him up basically. Yes. That's what I remember him for. And then he got his own show and I was like, oh shit, the muscle got his own show.
Yes.
We will have to fact check that in a later time.
The 90s and the 2000s were so unhinged. I mean, this is very pop culture and very relevant. I want to think that like today's trash TV, reality TV is like bad. Right now, one of our guilty pleasures is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and that is a whole shit show. But it's getting to the point where I'm like, I don't even know if this is productive to be watching. It's just like way beyond the screen. But it did start, like, these are the roots of reality TV, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of, The Bachelorette got canceled. Big shock. Yes. Like, not in a sarcastic way. I'm genuinely shocked. We were planning on watching it just for the drama, but... Anyway, so Sylvia Browne, funny enough, SNL did a skit based on her 5 months ago.
Recently?
Yeah, very recently. So if you want to, like, if you don't know who she is at all, watch the SNL skit and it pretty much summarizes who she is. But we'll also give some examples. Like, she had a lot of repetitive messages. Anyway, she was an American psychic, or claimed to be psychic, born in Kansas City, Missouri on the 19th of October of 1936.
1936?
So, yeah. And she died in, I want to say 2013. I forgot to write down the date of her death, but like, it was... Yeah, she was born a while ago.
It's around the Great Depression, right?
Yeah. She was on the Great Depression spanned from the 20s and... No.
Late 20s.
The 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So she was born around...
Yeah. And again, she was on many talk shows, most famously Montel Williams and Larry King Live. Her birth name was Sylvia Celeste Shoemaker. So she claimed to be like in a multi-religious household, but she was mainly Catholic, and she was a Catholic school teacher for a long time, which I'm not surprised. Like, the Catholic to witchy or psychic pipeline is like very, very strong.
As you've noticed through our last few episodes with Lent and all those topics we've been covering.
Yes.
We did not plan this, but it's like fitting perfectly into our timeline.
Yeah, so again, October 19th, 1936 is when she was born. She claims to have started seeing visions at the age of 3 or 5, basically when she was a toddler. Her grandmother was also psychic, according to her, and she had a great uncle that was also psychic and like a UFO enthusiast. She claims that when she was a little girl, she had 2 premonitions that her great grandmothers would pass, and they did in close sequence, like timeline wise. And sometimes, people don't think that you're legit unless you have lineage. Like, I get asked that all the time, like, oh, was your mom a psychic? Was your grandma a psychic? And I don't know, maybe her grandma and her family was psychic, maybe they weren't. But sometimes folks do like beef up like, oh, my grandma did such and such thing, because it adds to like the legitimacy factor.
Well, you married into it with me.
Yeah, so technically I can say yes because my grandmother-in-law.
I will say, I feel like a lot of our guests have also alluded to, there seems to be a pattern where they grew up super strict, either Catholic, Christian, or some sort of religion, but then there is some like ancestry to like, well, my aunts or my grandma, like a lot of people who we've interviewed on the podcast have mentioned that story, right?
Yeah, but I think with like, you have to consider privilege and colonization and generational trauma, where even if that was in your lineage, a lot of times it's like assimilate or die, especially in Mexico. Like, I know that some like brujas and witchy people did survive, but like when Mexico was being taken over by the Spanish, and it's like, you have to give up everything and become like super duper Catholic. So, yeah.
And I don't recall what episode you mentioned this in, but you gave a percentage of, you only need a certain percentage for a culture to survive, and it was really low. I think it was like in the low double digits or something.
Yeah.
Right? So even if there's just like remnants or traces, like things can survive.
I don't remember what that statistic was, but the statistic that I do remember is that it only takes 4% of people to resist fascism for fascism to not work. So I believe it's probably like the same thing. It really doesn't take a lot. But she started working professionally as a psychic in 1973. She was married 4 times. In her first marriage is when she had 2 sons, but she didn't change her last name. In her second marriage is where she did change her last name, but the last name was Brown, the typical spelling Brown. But then for her stage name, she added an E at the end. So Sylvia Browne is
just a little flair.
Yeah, a little flair.
So from Schumacher to Brown.
Shoemaker, to Brown, and she wrote over 20 books in her life, and they sold very, very well, because before there was like witch talk and YouTube, like that's the only way that people could get their information was really like through books, because the internet was still in its infancy.
I wonder, I'm assuming they weren't novels. They were probably more along the self line of like educational self-help.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So
she wrote 20 books without ChatGPT.
I know. Yeah, she did.
So we'll give her some flowers. Yeah.
So in 1964, with her first spouse, she moved to Sunnyvale. So Sunnyvale is very close to here. Yeah, it's in Santa Clara County, very, very close to San Jose. Very close to the Levi Stadium as well. Yeah.
A lot of things. I found out, I'm like pretty sure this is true. I found out like Cher lived in Fresno at some point. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. We might have to do a spotlight on Cher. Yeah. Just kidding. She might come after us. I don't want to mess with Cher.
Yeah.
But yes, when she moved to California, she started working as a psychic, which honestly, if you're going to do that type of work back then, this is the place to do it, especially when there were so many like gatekeepers. Like, you had to get famous. Now you can just like turn on whatever social media platform you want and like go live and post videos, which I'm so thankful for, that I don't have to like do the same type of struggle. But yeah, it was very advantageous that they ended up moving to California.
And this was perfect because at the time in the 70s, you had kind of the hippie movement. Sunnyvale, I mean, just up the road, you have San Francisco, and it had Ashbury. So it all mended together. I'm actually reading a book right now that takes place in Alaska, but they reference a lot of like NorCal places, and it was in the 70s, and it was just a perfect time, I think, and perfect place to do that. I don't know if you could have taken this to like, you know, Texas and been as successful.
Her goal, like for her work, her mission statement, if you will, is to prove that the soul survives death, God is real, and there is a divine plan and meaning for all of this. So when people ask, like, why are you doing this? Why are you like speaking so openly about your beliefs? That is what she would say.
I'm sure the church, I mean, I don't know how big she got to where the church noticed her, but that's probably contradictory to what the church would say, right?
Yeah. But interestingly enough, like the way that she would describe a lot of her beliefs is still like with God. So a lot of like the Christian mainstream sort of adopted her because she's like, these gifts were given to me by God.
Anointment.
Like,
yeah.
God is real. She also had like a spirit that would help her channel named Francine, and she would say that Francine was a gift from God and God gave her these gifts, and like she would always point back to like God loves you, God is real. Like, so it's how a lot of like the Christian people that had a little flexibility could still, you know, fall in love with her style, is because they're like, oh well, she was kind of Christian.
Credit to the man above. Yeah. It was all a PR move.
Honestly, maybe, who knows. But in 1974, she created the Nirvana Institute for Psychic Research, which is very interesting.
Is that still going?
I don't think it's as active anymore, but I think it still is around.
Yeah.
And then in 1986, she started a church called the Gnostic Christian Church in Campbell, California.
Oh, that's really close.
Near San Jose, like that area.
I feel like we've had lunch there before.
In Campbell?
I think so, yeah.
Her goal for that church was to remove the stigma of sin and instead focus on a loving relationship with the Father and Mother God. So still God, but sort of like more of like the masculine, what did they call it? Divine masculine and divine feminine aspects of God, which as someone that doesn't necessarily adhere or believe the gender binary, like I don't like those terms, but that's sort of like what it was giving.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of like church is like, you're a sinner and you're going to hell, and like unless you work through sin, like God will never accept you. For her, it was a little bit more of like radical acceptance, which I could see why a lot of people like that. When I started going from Catholicism to like non-denominational Christianity, that's what drew me into that and was like a step to just completely being a non-believer. I was like, oh, maybe I could do this.
Like what's it called? The Unitarian Universalists?
Yeah, they're a little more interesting. They're more like a multicultural, multi-faith situation.
Like believe what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like we're all here united like as a multi or interfaith type of congregation, but more like non-denominational Christian, new wave Christian is just like God loves you, feel God's presence through this like Imagine Dragons concert, you know? That's what it feels like. These like mega churches and their concerts.
That feels like somebody paid you to like slip in Imagine Dragons. I promise you it's not a plug.
That's just what new denominational is giving. It's giving Imagine Dragons.
Oh my gosh.
And I do like Imagine Dragons. We went to an Imagine Dragons concert, but
you're being radioactive right now.
I know I am. But
so at this point, I'm assuming she wasn't famous in the sense that she like to the point where she became what she was, right? She was known because of her books and she was able to start a church and a movement, so she had some sort of leverage, but
she was more local famous at this point,
Hey, like you.
Yeah, exactly. So interestingly enough,
you're supposed to say no, I'm not.
It's okay because like my fairy dust and her fairy dust is probably the same to you as a complete non-believer, so I'm not gonna fight that anymore. But
I was looking for the humility. No, you stand on business, babe. I support you.
Oh, thank you. Interestingly enough, one thing that I don't understand personally, she believes in past lives and reincarnation, but can also talk to the deceased. And it's like, if someone is deceased and their soul is like stuck here, how are they reincarnating? Maybe she has an answer to that I don't know. But
can it be maybe that it's not all like a binary? Like some people can be reincarnated, some people are stuck in that like middle ground, like
Yeah.
I don't know. Was she necessarily saying that everybody's reincarnated, or
she would talk a lot about past lives, like in a past life you were this and that. So, I mean, maybe the other thing I could think of, because I was trying to challenge myself, like put myself in her shoes, like why would she say this? One, I guess, in that movement could also say like that version of you, that energy is still here and imprinted, but then like your core soul is reincarnated. I don't know. Yeah. But that's just something that I'm like, when did she start going on TV? December 1998. So I was 3 years old. You were 8 years old. She came on the Montel Williams show to promote her biography. So yeah, she was already writing books, talk about herself. And she was such a hit that at that point she was like a regular well into the 2000s. So
she was like a guest first. Yeah. No, I know. She went well into the 2000s.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I saw a TikTok of an insider that worked for the Montel Williams show. And people were like, oh, did Montel just want to like make a quick buck, and that's why he always invited her? And this person stood 10 toes down for Montel. They were like, Montel was a man of integrity, so if he kept inviting her, it's because he saw something in her and he like believed in her abilities. Yeah. But as she got older, she got more and more unhinged, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
But yeah, apparently, like, at some point, Montel believed it. But what he liked about it was, or what the whole crew liked about it, is that Sylvia and the audience did all of the work, and they were more like facilitators, which I understand. Yeah. Like, sometimes it's a nice break as, like, a host to be interviewing someone or, like, watching the crowd do all the work. So.
It's kind of like when the substitute teacher throws on a video. Do you remember that weird movie we watched a couple years ago about... like that was the premise? It was this like TV show, and they were dispelling like psychics and magicians, and they brought them on the show, but then like weird shit started happening on the show, and like a demon portal opened. It was a really good movie. It's one of our favorite like horror movies.
Oh yes, I don't remember what it's called, but
it was like a not low budget, but it was like it gave like an indie film. Yeah.
Oh, and then they had the hypnotic spiral.
Yes, they had the hypnotic spiral, and then, like, it was weird because for the most part, it all geared towards, like, oh, we're disproving all these, spiritualists, but, like, they just fucked around and found out, and, like, shit started happening. It was filmed in, like, an interesting manner. They used cameras from, like, the 70s, and it looked very real. It was
very
a good
retro.
Movie. Yeah, very retro vibe. It was a really good movie.
If y'all remember what this movie is called, please comment somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have to like look it up and bring it up. It was a good movie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a really good movie. It was very like retro looking, and it was supposed to be like a talk show from like the 70s, 80s. Yeah.
It was one of those lost footage movies. Yeah. And it's kind of reminding me of this a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So, she devoted her life to a lot of psychic research, and she wrote a lot of books. It's very funny, on Reddit, there is a whole not subreddit, but like different Reddit threads of like, hey, if you had any reading with her, or
we want to hear your story. Yeah.
Or if you ever like read her books, did you like them? And a lot of people said the same thing, that when she was a little bit like smaller, before she got famous, she actually did very good work. And as she started to get famous, obviously started to go off the rails, but she was also getting older. Yeah. So I feel like when you get older, you get a little more unhinged because you don't care anymore.
Though, but yeah, I mean, some of the shit she ended up doing is like not cool, and we're obviously going to go into it.
Yeah.
But is that a cautionary tale for you?
I know. I thought about it. I was like, I got to stay humble, but I think I always will. I feel like I'm a very humble person.
You have me too to balance you out.
Exactly.
I will say, and I've mentioned this multiple times, but you have a lot of integrity in your practice, and I think, like I've mentioned before, that's one of the main reasons why I'm very supportive. I mean, we're over 120 episodes in at this point. Like, I'll call you out on like, hey, babe, I don't think that's like cool. But as far as your practice and what I've seen and just being your husband, like, you do things really well and with a lot of integrity. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. I saw a nice Instagram post that was like, the right teacher always leads you back to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and doesn't like necessarily create dependency, like I am the only one that can give you these answers.
I've still never received a reading from you.
Like a little one. I think one time you were like, why is everything going off the rails? Like, tell me. And then I was like, okay, since you asked, it is Mercury retrograde, and it all makes sense. But yeah, some of the people on the Reddit, yes, said that like when she was smaller, in terms of like a smaller creator, not as famous, like her work was really, really good. And apparently she had a friend that was very Christian. And when the Christian friend was kind of like, why are you doing this? Again, she said like, I have these gifts from God. And God told me that with my gifts, I can't charge people.
Yeah.
So I do these readings for free. So she started off doing free readings when she started in the 70s. And then all of a sudden one day she told her friend, like, actually, God said I could accept donations. I could take a little bit, because how else am I supposed to sustain this work? Which this is a hot button topic, especially like on threads. People are always spicy and saying like one thing or the other about like, if you have these gifts, if you know how to do divination, like you shouldn't be charging, or like the divination providers are like, I absolutely should be charging. Do you know how expensive it is to like credit card processing, hosting a website, like all of that jazz?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And not to dismiss her behavior, as we'll get into it, but from a business perspective, like there's a such thing as scalability, and at a certain point, like you only have one person. And so, you know, if you do start getting successful and you do start getting famous and you do start booking readings, I mean, if you want to continue to be in the presence of the public, like you have to be able to scale and adjust accordingly. And that's unfortunately just kind of life in capitalism, you know, and it happens, right? And things are a business, and I mean, even us, like we are like a legitimate business. We have our LLC, we have business meetings, we have like, you know, our whole little thing. And even at such a small scale production that like ours, like we still have to talk about these things. And so again, not excusing quality of work, but as you grow, responsibilities grow, and like you can't always be 100% focused.
I can give y'all the tea. If you're listening this far in, this many episodes in, I could give you a small glimpse into our life, but right now it's tax season.
Yes.
And I had to run a profit and loss statement. Our operating budget, like to break even, keep the lights on, pay all necessary things, and we don't have any frivolous subscriptions. Our operating budget is $7,000
a year. Yeah.
Yes. And we are a very small scale production. But every year insurance goes up because we're in California. Even though there are no wildfires where we are in the Central Valley, insurance always goes up. Lucy's insurance, our dog, went up because of the fucking wildfires. I'm like, this is madness.
To be clear, she's not part of her production budget.
I know. I wish, right?
Yeah.
But no.
No, just like, I mean, the California Tax Franchise Board, like, just off the rip takes $800 for existing. If you run an LLC just to exist, the privilege to exist and do business as an LLC in the state of California, it's $800. But I will say, I mean, I think we're doing pretty good. Like a $7,000 overhead budget is, I mean, it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's also like, and we don't have crazy overhead, which is nice. So. Yeah. This is the product right here. Yes, this is the product. Yeah. But anyway, enough about taxes. I understand, yes, she has to make money. Any person like can't just sustain off of donations. Then at that point you would be a nonprofit and apply for grants, which I think her Psychic Institute is a nonprofit. Yeah. But interestingly enough, one thing I forgot to mention, in her past, she does have one felony on her record, and that was for that was for securities fraud, because basically her and her partner promised people like gold mining rights, something crazy, and it ended up being, not the Nigerian prince. Yeah, and it ended up being a pyramid scheme that she like siphoned to one of her companies. She had many companies, but she had like this nonprofit, and then she had like her for-profit. And yeah, her books, her appearances, like all that. Yeah. They ended up catching a felony, and then I think that's so funny. Just like this sweet looking psychic lady, like with a felony. But I guess so did Martha Stewart. I was gonna say just like Martha Stewart. And then I think they only had like 1 year probation and 200 hours of community service. Like nothing super crazy. Martha Stewart milked the shit out of that. Like I think she made money eventually. Like her brand deals with Snoop Dogg. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I'm excited to get into the nitty-gritty of her claims, her top fails, and how she went off the rails right after this ad break. Today's episode is brought to you by us, Kythera Collective. If you've been vibing with the energy of the show, then you're going to love the Kythera Club over on Patreon. It's a space that I built for the cosmic, the curious, and the slightly chaotic. You know who you are. With 3 delicious tiers to choose from, we start with the chocolate level at $4 a month, which gains you access to weekly horoscopes and the exclusive Unhinged podcast, where I say things that don't make it to this main feed. It's sweet, it's spicy, and it's just for you. Next, we have the cafe level at $7 a month. This is where things really start to get cooking. You'll receive access to exclusive workshops, monthly virtual hangouts, and a private Discord community where you can chat directly with me and receive exclusive behind-the-scenes updates. It's magical, cozy, and a little unhinged in the best way. Finally, we have the tequila level. This is the VIP lounge. At $25 a month, you'll receive everything from the previous tiers, plus a personal 15-minute one-on-one session with myself or David each month, and discounts if you want to extend the session. It's a whole vibe and a powerful way to receive personalized guidance. So if you've been laughing along with us, crying or rage screaming in agreement, come hang out with us at the Kythera Club. Head over to patreon.com/JenCalo and choose your tier. If you want to sponsor an episode and advertise with us, go to our website, www.jencalo.com. All right, now back to the show. Welcome back. So after listening to this episode, definitely go on like YouTube or TikTok and type in like greatest fails, and they're so funny. They're funny from like a third person perspective, but they're very sad for the people that were involved. But she is most famous for doing that like audience, like taking random people from the audience and answering questions. The medium format, right? Yes, the medium format, making claims to help with either active police investigations or busting like cold cases.
Jeez.
Yes. And then for doubling down as she got older, she'd be like, no, you're wrong, I'm right.
Not the gaslighting.
A little bit, yeah, but it was like very unhinged.
Yes.
And so a lot of people claim that her powers are that she was a good cold reader, but eventually she was just not good at all. But some of her most common answers, so when people would be like, Sylvia, tell me about blah, 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 she had 3 very, very common answers: that missing people are dead, that missing people have died via drowning and their body is in the water, or if they are missing and alive, that they have been taken or enslaved by men of color. Ugh. Those are her top 3 answers. Yeah. Sometimes she'll give hyper specific, like they ran away and they started a new life in Florida and they're fine, they're thriving, they just hate your guts. Like sometimes she'll give answers like that, but
she had her go-tos.
Her go-tos were those 3. So let's go one by one. That someone is dead, like, I don't know. That's just like a stab in the dark, and probably most likely what happened. If someone has been missing for so long and they haven't turned up, that's like an easy guess. Yeah. Like statistics, probability. And then that they have drowned. When someone I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone dies in a body of water, their body is more likely to like decompose or just, you know, not to be grotesque, but like become fish food, and then there's like no trace. So then it's like, why can't we find them? Oh, because they're in the ocean, you know?
Yeah, to an extent. It really depends also on the temperature of the water. In really, really cold places, bodies can preserve. What happens though, essentially, is when a body dies, all the gases get like expelled, and if you're in water, if your body gets filled with gas, then you float to the top. So unless you're like tied down,
mafia style,
your body most likely is going to like rise up. But again, it also depends on the body of water. If it's like the ocean, waves will break it down. But if it's like a stagnant place or like a lake, there's a higher probability. I mean, it just depends on the situation, of course.
And if you say someone is dead, it's easy to bring closure and a message from the other side, which is her whole thing. And then the enslaved or taken by men of color is just her own bias.
That's
at
just
that point.
fucked.
Yeah, that's just fucked up.
I mean, that in itself is enough to discredit her completely.
But her top fourth one is that people ran away to Florida to start a new life. That is her fourth one.
I mean, to be fair, Florida has a lot of craziness going on.
Yeah. So I'll give some examples. So there was someone that was like, I feel like my house is haunted. Tell me about the people in my house. And she gave like very specific names, and she was like, look into like the historical records and see if you find like these people. And then the person was like, but our house was only constructed 10 years ago and we're the first owners. And then she was like, well, I'm not talking about your house, stupid. I'm talking about the land. And they're like, oh, okay. And then there was someone that, they were like, my biological dad went out for cigarettes, never came back type of thing. And then she was like, he ran away and started a new life in Florida. But her catchphrase, or her, not catchphrase, but just a natural thing she would always say is, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is a cold reader technique sometimes. So she said, does that make sense? And the girl started crying and she said, no, but thank you.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people would say. She would be like, does that make sense? And then they say, no, but thank you.
I mean, there's also, I forget the name, but there's like a psychological bias that sometimes you will do what you can to create or not create an awkward situation. So people could just be agreeing with her because in some way or another, she is coming from a place of authority.
Yes, 100%.
They don't want to make it awkward. They can kind of tie it to something, and it doesn't have to be a strong yes, but in their mind, they could be like, well, I could see this point, and sometimes that's just enough for validation.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's 100% what happened with most audience members. You could see that the wheels were turning, and they were like, what the fuck? But they didn't want to argue with her, so they're like, okay, thank you.
She just bullied people into...
Yes. Oh my God, yes, she did. So the next one is an example of that. So this woman was like, my husband died, and like, I just want to know that he's okay. And she was like, he drowned. And then she was like, he died in 9/11. He was a firefighter.
Yeah.
What do you mean he drowned? And then she was like, well, you know how they were like, using a lot of water? Like he got trapped in a place with a lot of water while they were trying to put the fires out from 9/11. And that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not like logical.
It's not logical, but it's not impossible. And all the person said was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
They just ended the conversation.
Jeez.
And then a final one of the few ones where they actually did kind of clap back at her, but then eventually they gave up because they were like, she's doubling down. Like, she's not going to listen to me.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. They were like, my teenage daughter, she collapsed, or my teenage daughter, is dead.
Yeah.
And we don't exactly know why. And then she was like, she was shot. And then the dad looked hella pissed and confused. And the mom, trying to save face, was like, that's not possible. She collapsed in her room. But the autopsy is like confusing.
Yeah. So we just want clarity on like what caused her to collapse, right?
And then she was like, I'm getting a sense that she got shot though. And like, is there any way she got shot in her bedroom? They're like, no, there was no bullet. Like, and the dad was just like, that makes no sense. And she was like, she got shot. You got to look into it. And then eventually they were like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More heartbreaking, real, there were definitely consequences for these people, like maybe psychologically, but some where there were like more serious consequences that this is why if you do divination, ultimately you have to come back for its like introspection and entertainment purposes only. You're not trying to bust cold cases. Like, you're not trying to, if someone has to make like a real life situation, they have to make the best decision for them. And this is where I think that she did something very, very irresponsible that I absolutely don't condone, and she crossed the line. There was a boy who was kidnapped. His name is Sean, and the parents were like, we heard that you helped the police, like, give us a tip, please, so we could tell the detective on the case. And she said, yeah, this little boy, he was kidnapped by a Hispanic man with dreadlocks, but he was like a light-skinned Hispanic man with dreadlocks. And they're like, okay. And then that he was dead.
Yeah.
Later on, they found the boy, And the captor was a very white guy. No mistaking him for anything else. Did not have dreadlocks. So if the police did like legitimately think that, like, they could have absolutely gotten the wrong person.
Yes.
But luckily there's a burden of proof and they didn't listen to that advice.
Yeah.
Then she told someone else that a little girl, her name is Opal Jo Jennings, was kidnapped and enslaved in Japan. So her claim was, yeah, this little girl, she was kidnapped and she was trafficked to Japan. She's still alive, but she's suffering, which is fucking horrible. But then they found her body 4 years after that, and the autopsy showed that she was murdered only hours after going missing.
That's insane.
Yeah. And then most famously, Amanda Berry. Does that case ring a bell? She's the girl that was kept in a basement.
Was that the one they based the show Kimmy Schmidt on?
I don't know.
Yeah, like
I don't
she
know
was
that
kept
show.
in the basement, and then she came up one day, and like, the world was shocking to her. Yeah.
Yes. That sounds like a crazy premise, but yeah. So she was kidnapped by this guy, kept in a basement as like a sex slave for 10 years, basically, and then one day, luckily, she escaped. But her mom went, or grandma, somebody, I don't remember their exact relation. Yeah, went to Sylvia, and Sylvia was like, "Oh, she's dead in the water."
Her and her drownings.
Yeah, but she was very much alive in this basement. And then I think that relative like passed away before knowing the truth.
Oh, that's super sad.
Yeah. So super irresponsible, super fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, she would double down. She'd be like, no. And then I think there was one case where it was proven wrong while Sylvia was alive, and Sylvia put out a press release like, only God knows the truth. God is the Almighty.
Yeah.
I am happy that I was wrong.
Ugh.
But in most of my cases, I have been right. I have busted cold cases. Like, she doubled down on her stats. And then one of her final books that she published was called End of Days Through My Eyes, where she had a Nostradamus type of prophecies of like how the world was going to end. And this is her claim about 2018 to mid 2020s, which is where we are right now.
Yes.
2018, there would be worldwide seismic activity that would result in many erupting volcanoes and atmospheric dust pollution that would create disastrous crop failure in the early to mid 2020s. We are currently in the early to mid, or mid to late at this point. 2020s, there was no seismic activity in 2018. There was no disastrous crop failure because of this dust cloud that
Maybe
covered
it was a
the
metaphorical catastrophe, because...
Nope, it was literal.
Oh, gosh.
And then her final fail, she said that she would live to be 88, but she only lived to 77.
Yeah, not a great person. Not a great person. I already kind of was super skeptical of her, and then just hearing this, it's horrible. It's one thing if it's like entertainment and you're not like hurting anyone, but like a lot of the things she did like can and did cause real harm. So yeah, no excuse, honestly. And then she was plain racist. Honestly, that was just cherry on top, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's maybe try to understand her astrology.
Yeah, so her chart rating is a B, meaning that this is self-reported in an autobiography or interview by her. So she was born October 19th.
Why would that not be an A? Because you need like an official document for it to be an A?
Like hospital. Yeah. Birth certificate.
Okay. But I feel like self-reporting is like it's not even a first-hand account. It's like a main source account, right?
I've had so many people self-report to me like, oh, this is my birth time. And then like days, weeks, months later, they're like, oh my God, my birth time was wrong.
Okay, so it's not...
Yeah, no, absolutely not great. And in my terms and conditions, when someone books, it's like, if you get your birth time wrong, I'm sorry. We're not, like, it's not on my dime. Like, you have to book another session.
Yeah, exactly. I
highly recommend, if you have your birth certificate, to look at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she was born October 19th, 1936 at 2 p.m. per her account.
In Kansas, right?
Yes. Yeah. And she, or actually, let me find, but I don't know if it's, Kansas City, Missouri. That's what I thought.
Kansas City, got it.
Yeah. Kansas City is not in Kansas. It's in Missouri.
Of course.
Yeah. So she is a Libra sun, Sagittarius moon, and Aquarius rising. So the Aquarius rising gave her that unique philosophy in life, and also spiritual leadership. People with Aquarius placements tend to do well with just like leading people with abstract things. The moon in her 10th house of notoriety, it was illuminating her. She was meant to be in the spotlight.
That one makes sense to you? Like, that's, yeah.
Jupiter in the 11th house meant that she was... 11th house is nowadays like the house of like social media, connections, and things like that. But back then, it was about communicating with a lot of people at once, usually through like community or activism.
Just
but
mass communication.
Yeah, but in this case, it makes sense that it was like through daytime TV and stuff like that. So yeah, her Jupiter was there, which is the planet of abundance, meant to be seen and heard around her life philosophy. And then her Sun and Mercury are in the 8th house of the occult. So yeah, definitely. That was like her whole life passion and like what she liked to talk about. So that makes sense.
What in her astrology would lead to like her shitty behavior, her racism, her causing harm? Like, what could possibly explain some of that?
So with astrology, I definitely believe in nature and nurture. So, you know, someone could have one type of astrology and grow up in poverty, and someone could be born into like privileged high society and have the same astrology, but then because of their conditions, it manifests in different ways. So I can't necessarily say where her racism came from. I think it may have been more of a byproduct of like the time, the location, how she was raised, things like that. But in astrology, one thing that I did see that I was like, ooh, this is where things could get a little bit interesting, is that she has a Saturn-Neptune opposition, and then Neptune-Mars opposition. So Neptune and Mars were very close together, and then Saturn was about 180 degrees away. And usually this is where you have like the most external conflict. So Neptune is a planet of spirituality, illusion. Mars is drive, aggression, and then Saturn is a planet of business. So even though her business didn't make sense, or maybe if she needed to like railroad other people, that's just what she needed to do to, you know, approach her objective, and that's just what she did.
Yeah, super interesting character. You know, a lot of the Spotlight series that we've had, there's been a lot of backstory for some of like the behavior. You know, we had we've had things where maybe you can explain some of the shitter behavior, but in this case, like, I don't know, she seemed pretty like run of the mill. You know, obviously hard work from getting from like the middle of the country to California and being successful. Sure, can praise that, but yeah, I don't know. Overall, definitely not my favorite person.
Definitely not. So now we'll go into a fact check, which is a new thing that we're going to do when we realize we misspoke.
Yes. It only took us 120 episodes, but I think we listened to our stuff back enough for when I'm editing that I'm like, ooh, that was just way wrong. And again, kind of like to what I alluded earlier in the show today, we're not necessarily like a facts podcast, but we also want to minimize spreading misinformation for anybody who cares. I'm sure, like, you know.
Let me clarify. Okay, we're not the History Channel.
Yes.
Okay. We do our research with integrity, and we try to go to original sources and be as factual as possible while integrating our own POV. But sometimes we get things wrong. We're human. We're a small production. I don't have editors. I don't have fact checkers. The things that the big podcasts do. And then sometimes David goes off the dome with things he remembers and misremembers. That's okay. That's what a natural conversation is like. You can be talking with your friends and saying like, oh, it's this movie. They're like, no, that quote is from another movie. Yeah. It is what it is.
But we want to do the responsible thing.
Yes. And now we have a fact check section.
Yes.
So our fact checked from... Shit, I don't remember what it was. St. Patrick's episode.
Day, yeah.
Yes, is about Patty Hearst. So our first correction, she was the granddaughter, not daughter, of William Randall Hearst.
Yes, which we might do an episode on. We're possibly piecing something together and possibly maybe going on a field trip, but we'll see.
Yes. The second connection, she was not abducted by an Ireland sort of resistant movement. No. She was abducted and recruited by something called the Symbionese Liberation Army, which was the first alt-left terrorist organization, and it was very American. Had nothing to do with Ireland.
Yes. So, I don't know. The other stuff I got right, but I think I just misspoke on that one. So.
Yes. Now we'll go into comments. Oh my God. We had so many comments. Wait, do we have
another fact check?
No. Well, it's within the comments.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do a fact check about
a comment that we got.
On the In Bulk episode, but y'all really ate up the Fresno post. We have a lot of comments from that. But we'll start with this last fact check. So from Miranda Joyce on Spotify, how does David know what cloud seeding is, but doesn't know what a groundhog is?
I was dying when I read that. If you're listening to this, Miranda, know that you had us cracking up at home. I was in bed and I was laughing so hard.
The second part
valid comment though.
Yes, so valid. The second part of her comment, listen to the episode this morning and David had me dying. He was on a good one that day.
Yeah, I don't remember what I said in that episode. I definitely need to go back and listen to it.
You also said sheep goes ba.
Was that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. But the fact check is that cloud seeding, they use silver iodide or dry ice because it helps water water vapor condense.
Yes.
So.
And I think I said aluminum oxide. Yeah.
So it's silver iodide or dry ice.
They're both shiny, so that's probably my what I thought it was.
Yes. And then all the Fresno comments. This post blew up, so we're not gonna say the IG handles just to keep it moving, but we're gonna speed run this.
Well, let's remind people what was said.
Oh yeah, so we took a still from the demonology episode, and David asked, where do demons come from? Fresno? And everyone loved that. So
I thought I was gonna get hate, but
anyways. Do you want to read the comments since that was your brilliant quiz?
Sure. So somebody said can confirm, so valid. Somebody said runner-up Lodi and Fairfield, which ugh. And then somebody said, I personally agree, my friend and I had a demonic experience there. Another comment was, as someone who has been in Fresno for the last 3 years can confirm, I think it might actually be a hellmouth. Can't wait to give this episode a listen. I don't know what a hellmouth is, so maybe
basically like the gates to hell.
Okay, maybe worth an episode.
Portal to hell. Yeah.
Super funny though. We had I don't even think those were all the comments, but that was that got some traction and I thought it was funny.
Yes.
So shout out Fresno.
There was an extra comment, but the person deleted it, so I'm like, maybe they were afraid to catch the Fresno smoke. I don't know. But because of that, I'm not going to read it out loud. Anyway, some announcements. By the time this episode airs, it will be the same week as our Lucky Charms workshop with Luna. It will be as of the day that this episode drops on Saturday of the same week, so like 4 days later at 1 p.m. I don't know if by the time this episode airs, if there will be tickets left, but in case there are, definitely check it out. You can make a gold or silver bracelet and add up to 5 charms and get a mini reading with me for the low price of $40.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, go check it out. Check out my link in bio to get tickets if you're interested. And if you want to get in touch with us for any other reason, look us up Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky at Gencalo, and our website, gencall.com, or on Facebook, Kythera Collective LLC. And if you like this show, share it with a friend that might be interested in the history of Sylvia Browne and our hot takes on her, and rate it and give us 5 stars wherever you're listening.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for watching today's Spotlight episode.
Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be and signing off. Bye.